Terry, you can start.
Yes. So hello, everyone, and welcome to the Newgen webinar, What Will COVID-19 Mean for Process Modernization Insurance Today and Tomorrow? I'm Terry Papakostas, and I'll be your host and the moderator for this webinar. I would like to thank you all for making the time to join us today. The response has been overwhelming. We're so excited to talk about process modernization in insurance. Today, I will start with our guest, Ellen Carney with Forrester. Ellen is a principal analyst serving financial services technology decision makers in roles such as CIOs and enterprise architects in insurance, wealth, investment, and asset management industries. Her industry focuses on technology decisions that financial services firms are investing in, including first, core platform modernization and replacement, and second, the integration of emerging technologies with legacy systems to drive better digital experiences and improved operational efficiency. Prior to that, Ellen spent 8 years providing strategic analysis and advice to Forrester's insurance digital business strategy clients, focusing on e-business strategies and best practices in digital and customer experience and adoption trends for property and casualty, life, group, and health insurers. Ellen has worked in various aspects of technology businesses, from network implementation services and consulting for nearly 30 years, and has been a Forrester analyst for more than a decade. Also with us is as a co-presenter is Varun Ghai. Varun is the head of business consulting for UK and Europe with Newgen Software. We're going to start shortly with Ellen, and she will be talking about how is rigid legacy process inherently limiting insurer ability to respond to the needs of customers and agents. Second, how can insurers employ better options for process automation throughout the business architecture? And third, why it is now critical to think strategically about process modernization initiatives. After that, Varun Ghai will take us through Newgen's low-code digital automation platform and how it can help insurers navigate crisis-like situations by optimizing critical insurance processes. And second, process automation use cases in insurers. Finally, at the end of the presentation, we will have a Q&A session. So I would like to request you all to type your questions on the question window anytime during the webinar, and we will address them at the end of the session. With that, I would like to thank you all, and I would like to pass on to Ellen for her presentation. Thank you.
Terry, good day, everyone. Thank you for carving out some time to talk with us and listen to us about what's going on in the business of insurance. And I think probably everyone is kind of getting a little tired of this image of, this nasty virus, which has changed everything in the lives of our consumer customers, in the lives of our business customers, and in the lives of us as insurance providers around the world. Doesn't matter where you are, but it's really changed the way we're thinking about how we serve our customers, and importantly, how we fundamentally think about the core systems that support, our customers moving forward. So, if we'd like to move forward, we can talk a little bit about some of the things that we're also seeing in terms of how this situation is evolving. I think this is probably also a given, in fact, in terms of what we're seeing from the pandemic response is, it's clearly impacting business. It's impacting our consumers' household cash flows. Oh, we can go back one more. I'm not quite ready yet. Thank you. So obviously, the question is about what is this downturn going to look like? We've played out a number of scenarios here within Forrester, and several big things that we've had. Is this going to be a sharp down and a sharp return back up? A V-shaped recession? Is it in fact going to be a recession that's sharp down with a kind of long bottom in the trough? And in a U-shaped recession, maybe a fast return to normal, or maybe a slower return to normal? Is it going to be a W-shaped recession? depending on if there is reinfection, as we think about how the virus actually or infection rates change over the course of the summer, or as we even move into the fall with the annual flu season coming on. And of course, here in the United States and in other parts of the world, in response to some of the social unrest issues that we have here, is in fact, all this kind of close quarters going to, drive up reinfection rates, or worse, is this going to be an L-shaped recession, fast down and, unclear look at terms of what's going to happen. So, what is this downturn going to look like? Regardless of what that is, it's going to have impact on, our core modernization and our process initiatives, as insurance organizations. Now we can move forward. So your customers are already behaving differently. One of the exciting things about being in the market research business is that we've got surveys out in the field right now in terms of how customer behavior is changing. This is one that was from earlier this quarter in terms of what's happening with customers in the UK. Consumers, 67% of consumers in the UK saying, I'm concerned that there's going to be a severe economic recession or depression. Here in the United States, it's 62%. 25% said, gosh, as I said, my household cash flows have changed. I've been furloughed, I've been laid off. So I'm spending more time managing my finances to make sure I can pay those bills. 25% of UK consumers said that. Here in the States, it's 32%. 27% said I've received information about how to delay some kind of payment that I've got to make, whether it's the mortgage I'm responsible for, my insurance payment, and credit payments. So, unfortunately, when it comes to actually paying that insurance premium, that ends up being pretty low in terms of priority of payout for many consumers. And for small businesses that have shuttered their doors, that's even lower. In the US, the average small business had, as we went into the pandemic, had basically 2 weeks of cash to run. And of course, that's gone at this point in time. 10% said in the UK, I've not paid a bill. I haven't made a loan payment. I've not had the cash to be able to do that. That number's higher in the US at 16%. And then, probably not surprisingly, as you look at how COVID has kind of brought more attention to protecting assets and paychecks, 3% said I've bought a life insurance policy. It's about the same as here in the United States, where it was 4%. So it's clearly impacting the decisions that consumers are making about managing cash flows, the concerns that they have, and the anxieties that they have. And it's obviously impacting, insurance business processes as they're looking at making changes around payments, billing, and of course, actual purchases. No surprise, one of the things that we're also seeing is there's a lot more shopping for insurance coverage, especially auto coverage, moving forward as consumers are looking at, how do I stretch the resources that I have? So, obviously driving people to aggregator sites, driving people to carrier sites, and causing them to pick up the phone as well. So next, we're going to take a look at, what else is going on here. If you'd like to advance our slide. Obviously, what's going on for the insurance landscape. I talked a little bit already about some of those recession curves. So if you want to move me forward here, this builds, and you can just go ahead and build. So, in our big think, our V-shaped recession, this is a best case scenario. There's mild disruption, in the business of business. And we see that the economic recovery globally is going to be happening in the fourth quarter of 2020. Bad news, we see this also as an unlikely scenario. 30% probability of this actually, going to be the state of affairs. And when we were thinking about this in the big think here at Forrester, this was, before we actually got into, some of the other situations that we've seen in terms of social unrest and, growth in the pandemic and markets outside the northern hemisphere. So now we're in, to the southern hemisphere. So, things are different. In our U-shaped recession, we talked a little bit about fast down, bottom trough. This is the worst case where there's significant disruption. And here we don't see the economic recovery beginning until the start of the third quarter of 2021. So a year from now. So, we're going to be slogging out, response to the pandemic, response to changing, business demands, response to changing consumer demands for another year. This was the likely scenario that we saw, and we gave this a 60% probability. In fact, if we go back and do another big think, I suspect we're going to see a higher likelihood of this happening. Worst case, we see dangerous disruption, and the recovery is not going to begin until the end of next year. So potentially another year and a half of response economically to the pandemic. It was so scary. We gave it an unlikely scenario and assigned it a 10% probability. And if you've looked at some of Forrester's research, and I know the Newgen team has as well, Andy Bartel's who's not only our resident economist here at Forrester, but also the gentleman that puts together our tech spend forecast globally, saw this as so dire that, he didn't even really want to play out, what the implications were going to be for tech. You're going to start to see us respond to that. And we just recently published a report kind of talking about tech demand, as well as other area, demands for, perhaps marketing tech as well moving forward. So this is, kind of the level of dispersion that we see. So what does it mean for the insurance business? So if we want to move forward, excuse me, to our next slide. I'm sorry, that's not a COVID cough. I have seasonal allergies. So best case, the industry returns to normal. Talked a little bit about the fact that we already see consumers and businesses starting to shop for insurance coverage. How can I reduce the coverage that I already have for, say, auto insurance or homeowners as we move forward? But, we bounce back fairly quickly here. Worst case, now we're going to have to think as insurance carriers and the brokers and agents that support carrier businesses, how do we adapt to some of these structural changes in demand? And we're already seeing this. Obviously, for things like premium leniency, if I can't make those payments, and we saw that consumer behavior slide in Grit, a few slides ago. What does that mean for us as insurance organizations as we kind of adapt to this new normal with changed cash flows for our business and our consumer customers? How about new needs in buying behaviors? For many consumers, if I'm not having to commute to work, why am I paying for car insurance the same way I've always done it? So there's going to be some interesting inflection points in, coverage that we've seen challenges getting consumer adoption to buy. Things like pay how you drive or telematics car insurance is going to be an interesting scenario now as we think about new ways of packaging coverage. New products and new channels. So obviously business interruption insurance, we've seen, big concern about, travel insurance coverage, business interruption coverage around the world, where, the large print makes consumers and small business think, wow, that's going to be covered, when in fact it's not. And so obviously insurance carriers are under a lot of pressure from both a PR perspective and from a government and regulator perspective about coverage. So obviously that's going to change things. Obviously, when we can't have an adjuster come and help do the loss estimate for that auto claim that we might have had, consumers now are stepping in and doing more digital self-service. So we've made lots of investments as insurance organizations, to make it easy for consumers to self-serve, whether it's for paying their bills or filing a claim or checking claim status. And now consumers are really compelled to actually use these capabilities. And so it's putting pressure on, obviously, insurance digital organizations to make sure they're easy to use. And interestingly, we're going to see a new industry structure. Here in the US, where we do not have the same level of aggregator buying, we're going to see that's going to, drive some, new changes here on this side of the pond. We also see that these are also going to represent new opportunities for insurance distribution. Obviously, you're starting to see, the auto OEMs thinking, how could we include coverage on a subscription basis for things like insurance? And, you're seeing some of the startup auto OEMs like Tesla and Rivian on electric trucks kind of moving into this area. So new industry structures that we're looking at. And our worst case scenario. So here we have an adaptation. Now we see something more severe. There's a collapse in demand for most coverage, most traditional coverage, if insurance organizations haven't been able to adapt. Here in the US, things like workers' compensation becomes an endangered species. How do we protect workers, on our properties, when in fact what you're seeing is a shift to contract employees away from direct employees. If I have a big work from home structure, why do I need to be in the commercial real estate business? Property or rents or leases for property can be quite expensive, and you are starting to see a lot of business leaders saying, do we really need to be in the real estate business? So that's going to have some big implications for commercial property insurance or loss of rent coverage. So, it's not just going to be the kind of coverage that's going to be driven by, say, the sharing or the gig economy. This could have some pretty sustainable changes in, the kinds of coverage that we as insurance organizations have been selling. Shift from captive to, independent brokers will be another big one. And, potentially when we look at some of the payouts that we're seeing because of the pandemic, in addition to what is looking to be a pretty significant claim year from natural disasters, I think there's, could potentially be an increase in, impaired insurers. This is obviously going to need some government backstopping. Obviously for some insurance coverage, both for pandemic coverage and perhaps for some others as well. So, I think we're going to see some interesting changes, interesting consolidation if we look at this worst case scenario. So, but the key thing here is that we as insurance organizations still have to continue. We still have to continue serving our customers. There are business processes like sales, customer acquisition, new business and illustrations, claims, payments that all have an impact on the way we're going to be running. That stuff isn't going to change as we move forward. So if you'd like to move to our next slide, please. Clearly what we've seen, and this is data that predated obviously the pandemic, but when we asked insurance organizations what their top priorities were for the coming 12 months, where we'd be sitting right in the middle of right now, and this is something insurance IT organizations are really good at. We want to cut overall IT costs. One of the things insurance companies don't need any lessons about doing is, how do I save money? So you see insurance companies looking at how can I think about new ways of delivering services to my internal stakeholders and obviously my external stakeholders in ways that are innovative, that I can employ new technology. And one of the ways that you see insurance organizations doing it is, let's cut, our kind of operating costs. And, it may be new ways of thinking about processes. It may be, new partnerships with tech firms like Newgen. I want to increase innovation. I'm going to use those cost savings to increase my rollouts of, artificial intelligence technologies, computer vision, natural language processing, new ways of thinking about automating end-to-end processes. So I can deliver better customer experiences. And, you know, as we see in our next one, 25% said, I got to do this faster. You know, especially as we see the pressure adapting to change, you know, we have to move faster. And of course, shifting resources to what improves CX. This is something we call zero back office within Forrester. You know, we want to deliver delightful experiences, you know, in the business processes that touch all of our customers. And we, you know, obviously want to do it in ways that are going to increase the productivity and efficiency of the resources for us as insurance organizations. And then finally, you know, we've got to align, you know, the IT KPIs within our organizations, you know, to the business outcomes that we're able to deliver. And especially as we look at how the pandemic is impacting the economy and impacting our business, you know, there's a new role that's paying attention to this, and that's the finance organization. So more attention from, you know, the, you know, financial organization about, you know, the investments that we are making. And it's, yeah, again, how do we improve our customer acquisitions? How do we improve customer loyalty, but at the same time, increase the productivity of the resources that we have? So if we'd like to move forward. So all of this cheaper, better, faster becomes really important. But some of these good business decisions can have negative consequences. And, you know, it's easy to look to the right to see what's coming, you know, in the headlights, the things that we expect. But sometimes it comes, you know, from the left, and, you know, we can't start walking across that that crosswalk without really understanding what's happening on both sides. So, as we talked a little bit about the, you know, the primary initiative for a lot of insurance organizations, I got to cut my IT costs, and they can have negative consequences if we cut too close to the bone. So, if you want to move forward. There we go. Think about this from a claims perspective. You know, business priorities, talked a little bit about the fact that this looks to be a pretty darn bad claim year. We looked at, you know, the kinds of initiatives that global insurance companies were making when it came to improving the claim experience for customers. This is hot off the press. This is data that came in and out of the field in March. So I looked at it across 3 business priorities: improving customer experience, reducing expenses, improving the partner experience, considering the fact that insurance depends on an ecosystem to help recover that customer's lives and get them back to normal after a claim. And then being able to accelerate your response to business market changes, just where we are right now. And if you take a look at what I've boxed here in red, things like improving claims analytics, insights, and data, you know, reducing expenses. This is, you know, still a big priority, but, you know, compared to other priorities for insurance organizations, this is, you know, somewhat less. Obviously, when we look at what's happening with, gosh, I got to change faster. Well, I need the insights to be able to do that. I need the resources to, you know, help guide me as an insurance, you know, claims decision maker. You can see a big change here. I've got to improve the frequency of customer communications. My call center resources are really taxed right now, answering questions about bill pay and things like that. What kinds of ways am I going to be able to communicate with my customers? And this is clearly something that's important, not just low code that we've taught Newgen does, but obviously customer communications management. This is going to be a key initiative around claims. Fraud detection, leakage of all sorts are going to really matter. And I don't care if it's better, faster identification of fraud that even begins at the underwriting phases, but fraud throughout the claim cycle. One of the other areas that we're also seeing that's related to fraud identification, claims leakage, paying the right amount. So a big area of attention there. Self-service, claim settlement, all of these areas are really important when you think about the claims process. The core high moment of truth for insurance organizations. And you see insurance decision makers moving different knobs, adjusting different levers in their claims strategy moving forward. But all of it means speed. And in a ability to accelerate a response to a business market change like we are right now, it means that we have to think about new ways of responding. And low code is a perfect example of one of the ways that we're seeing insurance IT organizations removing costs and speeding up processes moving forward. So if you'd like to move to our next slide, please. Thank you. And one of the things that we're also seeing around this, again, where low code is so important, you're seeing an interesting shift for insurance organizations away from packaged applications into we're going to build it ourselves. I have these resources available. They're called developers. How can I make better use of their capabilities when I have to move very quickly to accommodate the needs of our customers moving forward in a high claim year in an area where we didn't even expect to see something like a pandemic influencing here. So from a competitive advantage standpoint, when we asked insurance software decision makers, who are going to be doing some custom development, why were you doing it? More than a third say, I'm going to be able to get functionality that's not going to be available from any software vendor. I can make my my environment less complex, and I can do this and do this more simply than trying to customize a packaged application. I can get a competitive advantage because I'm going to be able to build something that's not going to be commercially available, that's just for my own environment, and I'm going to be able to do it at a lower cost. And I'm going to be actually able to, 30% said protect my competitive position. So, COVID and the pandemic has introduced an interesting opportunity for insurance application development and design organizations to meet the needs of the business in ways that we haven't seen before and be able to do so more economically. So this is the time of low code moving forward for sure, as we think about being able to respond to this change. And it's not necessarily even just replacing the applications or the core systems that we have. It's how can I modernize them with the use of new capabilities, such as I said, computer vision and machine learning moving forward. So if you'd like to move me forward here. And obviously low code, is depending on insurance business priorities. Obviously customer experience, profitability, as we saw on previous slides, that now matters, and we have to be able to change fast because we're not sure how this, economy is going to navigate, the pandemic and, other global issues. Digital transformation, this is initiative that we've started, perhaps decades ago within our own business, and this is part of our, kind of how we move forward. It is a continuous process. And for development organizations, boy, there's always a big pipeline of work that we have to get done. So when we asked insurance tech teams, what are their plans to adopt low code platforms? For those that are improving customer experience, 28% said this is a big priority for us. More than, almost a third are saying that, we're going to be moving forward with this in the 12 months. So just so you know, when this survey actually happened, this is in the third quarter of 2019 where we actually did this survey. So we're right in the middle of this. But this gives you a sense of, how they're thinking about adjusting and adapting to business priorities within their organizations through the use of low code within their environment. And again, for those that are improving partner experience, since we depend on Availage to actually be able to, deliver on behalf of our customers, either from a sales perspective or a claims perspective, you have, basically 1 in 5 saying, I've already implemented low code, or I'm expanding or upgrading the implementation of low code within my environment because I see the business value. So low code is, helping insurance organizations adapt to these business priorities, as is, customer communications management, as we saw previously. If you'd like to move me forward, please. So the question is where do you want to be? Is it going to be, as we had looked about, a struggle for survival? If none of us thought that we were going to be in this looking towards the left as we attempted to navigate 2020, the 2020 crosswalk, we could cut too close to the bone. And that means we can't move fast enough as we, navigate a fast return to normal if that recession, turns out to be V-shape. So, we can't meet the needs of customers. That means we may need to sell off lines of business that, I suspect aren't going to be profitable, but, met the needs of customers. And it may mean, pretty dire and, an exit through being acquired or receivership, for insurance organizations. So this is a pretty grim, set of behaviors that, some of us may have to adapt to. Next is, we can adapt, to get through this. And we see most insurance organizations here. They may be cutting back on all spend, and that may impact, some of the ways that we adapt. But can we use the resources that we have, such as a low-code platform, to be able to increase automation within our organization? And here in this adapt to get through this, a lot of these companies are going to say, hey, customer experience is going to be one of the ways that we're going to be able to reduce costs, because we're going to be able to invest in automation, and we can make things better and faster for consumers, answer questions better, and improve that customer experience so they're not sitting on the phone waiting here. So we see most insurance carriers going to be in this situation. The few that are really smart, they're going to be the ones that are going to lead forward. If we click to our next build here. And because they've been smart about the way they've invested in core with a business process platform that's going to let them strike while the iron is hot. I can change and move forward really quickly. I can increase the marketing and sales spend because I've been able to cut my IT costs in the way I'm supporting applications within my environment, and can surpass my competitors when I've got customers who are or prospects that are in the mood to change their insurance carriers. And it also means that you're at a position of strength. You can be an acquirer and not acquired, as we potentially see a lot of interesting insurtechs that might be on the market moving forward here. So the question is where do you want to be? And I'm going to pass this back to Varun, to kind of talk about how Newgen can actually, with smart insurance, help insurance carriers move and navigate all these changes I talked about. So thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. And good morning, everyone. So moving forward, what we thought today, we'll walk you through a journey on a low-code, no-code based platform and what it means in today's world for an insurer to meet their goals into the market. So we took up an example, one of our customers, we can call it Smart Insurance, and they are offering motor insurance. Currently, they have an online channel where the customers, after buying the policy, they can go online and they can view their policies. And for submitting any claims, they have given an email ID where they can send an email which was going to a common box, and then from there it was distributed to multiple people. Now, Smart Insurance want to automate this whole experience. They want the customers to self-service themselves, have an online tool where the customers can claim, submit their claims if they are at all, and want to have an end-to-end back-end process, right? So rather than having emails being manually circulated, they want to have an end-to-end automation from the portal self-service to the back office users who could process those claims end-to-end. So Smart Insurance decided to automate this particular journey on a low-code automation platform of Newgen. Now, to do this, they assemble a team. They bring in a project manager. She's an expert agile project manager, and she further adds in key business stakeholders, which is Richard and Sarah. So Richard comes from the motor insurance claims department, and Sarah is the back office operations manager. And from IT, we got people from UX, software development, business analyst, senior architect, and a database administrator. And also in the team, we have Amanda, who is our risk and compliance officer. So together, their objective is to automate this claims automation journey for smart insurance. So Amanda quickly sets up agile project plans spread into multiple sprints and delivery cycles to automate this process. So she calls off a meeting with all the stakeholders where each of them have been assigned their roles and responsibilities. So Richard is responsible for all the business requirements of online claim submissions. Sarah is for all back office processes, turnaround times in terms of their operations. Emily, business analyst, she'll be assisting Richard and Sarah for all the process design on the Newgen no-code, low-code platform. Ishan would be helping in the integration aspects, and Ruby will make sure from all the experience and portal from perspective. Bob would be dealing with all the data architectures and the master datas, and Swami will help in all the deployment of this particular platform, and Amanda for any compliance rules which need to be followed as part of the entire automation journey. So the whole team is aware about their goals and their sets, and they proceed. So Swami used the DevOps manager within the no-code, low-code platform of Newgen, and he sets up the entire framework as per the policy of development, test, UAT, and the production server using the DevOps manager on the platform. Once he is set, he assigns various rights to different users who would have access to a development environment or a build environment, and who would have access for a test environment. Parallelly, Richard, Sarah, and Emily, they start capturing the requirements. So start defining all the business needs, the goals they want to achieve. So rather than using Visio or printed papers, they started documenting the whole user journey, the storyboarding directly into the platform, where they can define the purpose of the whole process. They can define the solution scope, the coverage of the areas they want to meet. They even are able to attach all the standard documentation what they have currently in smart insurance as part of their process discovery stage. Once they have set, they also define various compliances where data they need to capture and process with help from Amanda, our compliance officer, which would be part of the journey. Once they are done, Bob, who's our DBA, he uses the master data module of the platform where he could quickly configure and the entire data models, data architectures, and assigning various rights to different users and people, and what kind of structures, fields would be captured. Once we are done, once we are set it up, unfortunately this pandemic happens, and because of that they see what would happen to this project. Fortunately, Newgen no code platform completely works on cloud. It was already hosted on AWS, so team could easily collaborate going forward, so there was no intrusion from a project perspective. So next time they collaborate digitally, and they review the progress, what they all did in the previous sprint, and they discuss the progress, they clarify any doubts, what they need to take care of, and agrees on various integration touch points they need to work upon. So everyone start now designing the process on the no code platform, where they drag and drop and configure the entire claims process directly, easily, intuitively, what they have benchmarked as part of their discovery cycle, defining various routing criteria, business rules easily into the platform, even defining various email communications. So for example, a customer is making a claim and then immediately sending an email that we have received your claim and we would be processing it. So configuring even those claims emails notifications, and defining various structured data rights at different stages of the process. Once they are set, Ishan is working on the integration. Ishan uses the inbuilt platform to register the external services, whether they are REST or SOAP based. He could use the intuitive interface of the platform to register the external services over here. Once these parameters are set, they get added into the central library for all the web services. So the team meets again, they review the progress they've gone through. The team showed the processes they have automated, they have defined in the low code platform. But Ishan raises some concern about an integration with an external application, because there was no API available. So Swami suggests that why don't you use the non-intrusive integration features available within the Newgen low-code platform. Now, Ishan quickly keeps it up and uses the RPA capabilities embedded within the Newgen no-code platform. So he uses the bot designer where he could easily configure a bot to do that particular integration with robotics. So he could design the whole web script where how the system would capture the data from the claim system and go to an external surveyor system and publish and populate the data over there. And while doing this, he also comes to know that smart insurance is already using UiPath for some other purpose, where they were doing some legal mails fetching and processing. And he wanted to include that also as part of the process. And he was happy to know that Newgen already supports UiPath bots to be registered directly as part of the process journey. So he saw that capability of one is creating bots within the platform, and another is if there are existing bots externally being used by the company, they could easily configure them over here. Once he is done, parallelly, the business team, along with our business analyst, is working on defining the various forms where the customers would be submitting their claim details and the back office users would be previewing and reviewing those claims into the system. So they use the intuitive form builder, which is part of the platform where they can configure all the details which would required as part of the questionnaire, as part of the claims process. So they configure those fields and forms and design them within the no-code platform. Now, parallelly, once those forms were done, Ruby, who's the UX expert at Smart Insurance, she has to make sure that all the digital journeys, the process, the forms follows the corporate look and theme of Smart Insurance. So she uses the theme manager into the platform and configure all the standards, logos, the color schemes, the stationery, followed by Smart Insurance. So she could use the theme manager and configure all that pretty quickly. Once she's set, she previews that yes, the entire look and feel, the interface are following the corporate guidelines. Then Sarah, who is responsible for operations manager, she and Emily are working on defining the various turnaround times and SLAs into the process because they are committed to ensure that the system meets the defined turnaround times and the SLAs as part of their back office operations to the claim. So if Smart Insurance wants to say that we will process the claim in less than a week, they need the process to be intelligent enough to make escalations, alerts, notifications to different stakeholders in case they are not able to meet those SLAs. The whole team gets together for the next review meeting and they go through the progress they did in the last sprint for the forms they designed, the turnaround times, the SLAs they configured, the theme which they could register. And then Amanda, who's the compliance officer, she highlights the various compliances and checklist, which as insurer, they have to make sure they meet. So the whole team gets up together and they use the inbuilt master definition where they could configure various compliance checklist and master, which different operation stakeholders have to make sure as part of processing their claims. So they could list all the master checklist over the platform easily. Parallelly, they also use the rules engine platform within the no code platform to define various claims rules they would like to have as part of the process journey. Now, the rules could be around like the aging of a claim, they could be around the value of the claim, the type of the claim, and to also investigate if there are possible frauds in as part of the claim. So they could easily set up all those rules and policies from a compliance and from a risk perspective into the platform easily. And parallelly, Richard and the rest of the team is also working on how to configure intuitive dashboards for the business users who would be working. So they set up various criterias how the work would be auto allocated to different stakeholders as part of the process. So there could be stages like a claims officer, there could be an underwriter, and there could be a loan officer, the the claim officer, who would have to make sure that all the standard documentation and all has been captured. So they want the system to be intelligent enough to do auto rule-based allocation of the work based on different roles and responsibilities and the approval hierarchy of smart insurance. So they could set up within the platform. They also wanted to set up various dashboards in terms of the user to see what kind of claims they are receiving and they are processing. So they can set it up for different roles and personas within Smart Insurance, that how the work goes allocated, how they can filter it out, how they can share the cases, and how they can track their claims. Once they set up, Sarah, being the operations head, is also looking for various organization reports which they would like to generate out of the system. So she wanted that they could have the reports like operations, how many claims are received, how many processed, and all. And she could happily do that on this low code reports designer, where they can create an HTML, XLS, PDF kind of online reports basis various turnaround times and SLAs they want to achieve internally, so that the system can keep them up to date on terms of the entire operations, what's happening on the floor on a day-to-day basis. Plus, the system also allows to automatically email the daily performance reports, the daily claims reports directly to various stakeholders into their email addresses. So once they are set up, the whole team collaborates together. They preview and they run through what they achieved in last week, they for any gaps and all. And there was a decision to be made whether they go for a UAT, full end-to-end testing, for what all they have configured till date. So everyone was happy with the progress, and they wanted to proceed with a full UAT cycle. So the whole team uses the platform, and Swami first have to make sure that in the deployment manager, he progressed from build to deploy to the UAT environment. So he could use the CI/CD platform without any manual intervention to automatically deploy all the changes, the configurations the team has done, directly move on to the test environment. Once that is set, the team goes through to the entire claims process, how it was set, how the things were done uh, over here. So they go through, they do a complete testing. But Sarah wants to further simulate, not just from an operations or usability perspective, but she wants to also simulate that would there be any operational bottlenecks in the process. So if there could be 10,000 claims in a month or 20,000 claims in a month, then what would be the right set of team processes, roles they have set in the process? So she uses the simulation, or what we call the process insights feature of the low code platform, to run through the entire process in a simulated way. So she could define various scenarios, various options, how many cases would be introduced through various channels, what would be the throughput rate, what would be the processing rate, the efficiency for different users at different roles and their SLAs. And the system could help us generate an advanced report for next 5 years, 6 years in a simulated way, that if those volumes were achieved, then what would be the operation throughput for the back office team. And that helped her to analyze the loads, the bottlenecks which could possibly be into the process, and that helped her to change the process quickly, so that there are no bottlenecks over there. So once they were set, Amanda, our compliance officer, she also wanted to make sure that whatever we have configured into the platform, whatever we have defined, gets also archived in the central repository of smart communication, smart insurance. So they wanted a central archive to manage that. And system has an inbuilt a compliance documentation generation engine, where it generates the entire documentation from a process, roles, rights, which you have configured as part of the process journey on a matter of a click, and auto archive them into the DMS central compliance repository of smart insurance. Once set, the team collaborates together to review the overall progress of the UAT test cycle they just went through, and they wanted to decide to go further, and they decide to release the MVP, which is the minimum viable product, into the production, so that they can quickly start offering this to their customers in a time like this. So that was a quick journey and overview how a smart insurance could use a no-code, low-code platform to automate an end-to-end claims process right from a digital journey for an end customer, where they are submitting their claims to an end-to-end processing in the back office over this no-code, low-code platform. Now, as a platform, it enables you to lower your cost and standardize your processes. It enables you to expand, which gives you an ability to change and add processes, act fast, so that you can DIY your processes yourself, and also focus on your customer retention by better customer servicing in a platform like this, from end to end, and also be competitive to launch new services quickly. So a no-code, low-code platform gives you a lot of flexibility to definitely lower your cost, but today's term is to be agile, be responsive to your market, and do a lot of things yourself rather than being dependent on IT or your external partners to make those changes over months, because the market is changing with a matter of days or weeks, and technology should also react to that. So the benefits many of our customers have seen or achieved using the Newgen low-code platform, so I could highlight them. People have stated they automated more than 70% of the processes. And this is very interesting. Most of the time, we only focus on the core processes which we want to automate, and we let go the smaller processes uh, because of the cost of investment, IT, and overall budgets. But on the same platform, you could definitely automate your core processes, but you can also think and expand various other processes which have been lagging around for quite a few years, could be also easily automated over here and within your budgets. Achieved 60% development efficiency. So we have been always been talking about the operations efficiency and the productivity of the platform, but it is also very important to measure the productivity of your development team, your infrastructure, that how a no-code, low-code platform could add efficiency over there for your development organization. Attained up to 120% of the productivity gain on the platform by being more reactive, more agile to changing needs of the market, and up to 14x faster to automate and 30x faster to change. So, so automating the process is one example, but 30x faster to change is a milestone in itself, because that is the speed the businesses today, the insurance companies today, are looking to automate quickly themselves because of the changing needs, the environments, and the scenarios. And on top, a 5-year ROI of more than 500% on the platform, because you could scale into multiple business lines, multiple process areas altogether on one single platform. So some of the example I could state over there is, we have lots of insurance companies who have automated, whether it's life, health, motor, property, commercial, or financial. They have automated multiple processes over the same platform, and including not just the core, but also the internal process like finance, HR, procurement, for employee onboarding or financial process automation. And not just this, the end-to-end service management, whether you're servicing your customers, your agents, your brokers, your partners, onboarding a new broker into the system, the whole application process for them, responding to your vendors over the payments processes, enabling employees for various employee onboarding activities, and enabling even IT help desk kind of processes over the same platform. So a no-code, low-code platform like one we showed on Newgen gives you an immense array or a platform to have a reach to various service line or process line within your company. Now, just quickly, some success stories. We have host of insurance customers. I took few. So Vulnerable is a large US based insurance company who have automated 100 plus processes over the same platform to do an enterprise service management on the Newgen low code platform. It's completely cloud hosted project, and all of those 100 requested processes were automated in a matter of 3 to 4 months. And then we have RSA, where we have done motor claim process for them in multiple countries and reduced a lot of FTE processing time, reduction of their operations, and more important, to capture lots of frauds which earlier they were not able to do in a manual scenario. Also, Mass Mutual, again, a large global insurer, and we have achieved multiple processes over the same low code, no code platform for them. So that brings me to the end of my presentation today, and we would be happy and open to any questions we have.
Well, that was really exciting. Thank you so much. And I was really happy to see the benefits that low-code BPM can bring. Thank you, Ellen, Varun, for your useful insights. We have a number of questions coming in, so let me start. So the first one that I have is the following: how is the pandemic impacting insurance core modernization? Do we see anything interesting happening, and that you do not expect to see? I believe that one could be taken by Ellen.
Oh, yeah, Terry, it is actually pretty interesting. Obviously, as Varun had talked about in his great session, is business is still continuing in insurance, and so modernization is continuing apace. You might not see a brand new project kicking off or for a replacement. So, but how can we improve the processes that we have to, again, deliver some of the metrics that Varun had kind of finished up with in his session? One of the big ones is touch-free, hands-free claims. When you think about smart insurance, the use case that Varun had talked about, what you're seeing, especially here in the US market, is how can we automate more of our processes to make them more like a glass claim or a tow claim, where it's really simple for the claimant to actually do more with having to do less themselves, and likewise for the whole claims organization, in terms of fraud identification and that sort of thing. So I think that's one of the things that has continued. This is not ground to a halt, and the area of focus that you've seen most acute for insurance organization is the claim, and how can we make those end-to-end processes more streamlined and more automated and cheaper.
Great, thank you so much for that. So let me go through the next one. I mean, we're having so many. I'm not sure we'll make it, all of them in the 4 minutes we still have. So next one is, so with all the work you do with your clients, what is the biggest misunderstanding? Wow, you come across when it comes to low code? So I presume that one would be for Varun.
Thanks, Terry. Yeah, so it's a nice question. There are a lot of misunderstandings. So people always ask us, is low code for the core processes what they automate, or is it for the smaller, simple processes in the organization? All right. The answer is it's actually for both. And as an organization, the matter is your prioritization, is where do you want to start? Right. So many of the customers we see, they start with the smaller, easy process to build a capability faster into the organization, and then quickly scale to their core processes over the same platform.
I see. Thank you so much for that. The next one. When it comes to specific products or processes, where do we see insurers primarily focusing on, and why? I believe that's one for Ellen.
Oh yeah, as Terry, as I had kind of talked about before, it's the claim. It's the moment of truth, but especially now where we can't be face to face, we're seeing a lot more attention right now on how do we improve that claims business. And of course, part of the other process, part of that is, how can we reduce our claims expenses, both from a loss adjustment expense, and I talked a little bit in my presentation about, we're paying a lot more attention to fraud detection, but also leakage. And so I think claims is going to continue. It's the moment of truth, and this is the way that we can reduce costs in a pretty substantial way. As clearly Varun had talked about 500% ROI. This is claims is it.
Great. Thank you so much for that. I have 1 more minute, to be honest. So let me see. Probably make it for like 1 or 2 more. So will the integration with existing core and third-party data going to be more or less challenging in 2020? Integration, my favorite, but I think this one should go to Varun, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, so integration is going to increase, and Ellen highlighted the way the insurtechs or a lot of technology companies coming in with a great value proposition from their technology. So we are seeing a good adaptability of those into the core insurance processes, and what we see is the integration with multiple external system is going to grow as we go forward, right? And apart from the third party, what we also see a lot of demand is that many organizations have bought the bots, the RPA, and they are seeing challenge of them running in standalone. So a lot of our customers come to us that can we orchestrate and integrate their bots into the process automation cycle, and we see that as a good integration use cases coming up quite a lot, right? And like I showed in my presentation, that is already well covered. It is using in-house Newgen capabilities of RPA and also certified with third-party bots to be easily configured, registered as part of your process automation.
Great, thank you so much. I'm afraid we ran out of time, and I have a whole series of questions in front of me, which unfortunately will not be able to answer during this session. But we will answer and get back to you on those to everybody. So from my side, and from I would like to thank first of all Ellen for joining us today. I would also like to thank Varun. But above all, I would like to thank all of our attendees. So more than happy to reach out, and we'll be more than happy to be of your assistance. So thank you so much, and we'll be in touch real soon. Thank you and have a great day.